Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Eyewitness News' continuing coverage of the Katrina disaster. I'm Lee Zurich.
And I'm Lucy Bustamante, and we start today on a national look at the latest of what's going on in the New Orleans area. We hear that many people have been cleared out from the Superdome, and it's definitely a much different picture than what you all have been seeing in the past few days. We do have the Lieutenant Governor of Louisiana joining us this morning, Mr. Mitchell Landrieu. Good morning. How are you today?
I'm fine, thank you. How are you?
I know that the Landrieu family has had their work cut out for them for quite some time now, right?
Well, it's kind of a family affair for all of us. We're all in one big happy family now. I know everybody here has had, losses too, so it's been a tough week for us.
And tell us what your major concern is. We know that we've had a lot of people just saying this should have happened, this could have happened, this did not happen. What kind of element is that fostering?
Well, it's so interesting when you're on the ground, like when you're on it, helping as everybody here has, there's a disconnect between what's going on with the talking heads, in the typical Washington, who did what, when, and how. That's a function of them moving on to another story because they cover the event, then it gets to be the blame, then it gets to be the story of the Chief Justice dying, and then they leave, and we're left here. The reality is that there's a lot of blame to go around, there's a lot of credit, the heroes to be made, the demons, to be looked at, but that's going to happen, in time. We know that's going to happen. It's important, and accountability and responsibility are necessary because this is an American tragedy, number one. It's not just a Louisiana tragedy, and by the way, it's just in its first act. I mean, the real hard part, the pain, the agony has yet to come. These people, our brothers and sisters, our friends who are in these facilities throughout the country being taken care of wonderfully, by the way, by all of our friends in Arkansas and Texas, have lost their homes, they've lost their property, they've lost their livelihood, and trying to rebuild that is a gargantuan task. Aaron Broussard told me yesterday that the first thing they're going to get when they get home is a wet envelope that's got a mortgage payment in it. And the next one they're going to get is a dry envelope that's the past due notice on it. Now, if you think about the implications of that over time, and so the blame gun doesn't save lives. What we're in the business of doing right now, as we speak, we have troops on the street, we have rescuers on the streets going door to door. The national media wants to focus on the convention center and the Superdome. We have, thank God, cleared those out, and that's really important. But let me tell you something, there are people still in their houses. There are people still in their houses in Plaquemine, in St. Bernard, in Lakeview, in Uptown that have not been able to get out.
Right.
And we need to be about the business of getting them out, getting them safe, getting them fed, and then start the rebuilding process. This blame game takes our focus off of that.
Well, all these refugees, as they call them, these different facilities around this part of the country, what happens to them, though? Where do they go? I mean, they're not going to be able to stay there forever.
First order of business is we need to stop calling them refugees. Yes. I make that mistake. We've all made it. These are American citizens. And if you think about the implications of this from a national perspective, this particular tragedy is, as we know right now, 4 times larger than 9/11, and we know what kind of impact that had on us. We've never had one of these things. And when you think about what's on the Statue of Liberty, where they say huddled masses, wretched refuse, give me a tyrant and poor, if the American citizens want to see them, they need to go to these centers where our families are, who need as much help as they possibly can. We're going to need $150 billion to rebuild the lives of these individuals, and that might be a short number. And for people who think that's a high number, for the amount of money that we've spent on other initiatives that were necessary, it's a de minimis amount. Just to rebuild the coast, we're going to need $20 billion, and we've been saying that forever. And so my message to President Bush and to all of the congressional leaders and the Senate leaders here is don't blink and lean forward. That's language that they understand. It's Washington speak, for we're going to get it done at all costs. And that's going to be the message that I have. The other message is this, that all of the media images have been about the young men who were lawless, who did really terrible things, who need to be dealt with in as serious a way as possible. But the story that hasn't been told, because you couldn't get your cameras in there, on the ground where we were, where the 99.9% of these people were golden. I mean, they were unbelievable in what they tolerated. Can you think of how hard it must have been for individuals to stand there, besides us being sorry? And let me say one other thing. These people don't want our pity, and they don't want our sorrow.
Right.
Our friends and our brothers and sisters want our help, and they want our commitment. That's all they want. They don't want this old national catharsis where people come in, we do a bunch of fundraisers, and then people are gone. They want a long-term commitment to help them. These people are not pitying themselves. The most unbelievably uplifting thing about visiting these centers is that these people are strong, and they're ready to move on, but they want to find their loved ones, and they want to get back about the business of restoring their life to where it was before the storm.
I've just gotten here, I guess, a few hours ago in New Orleans. We've got a lot to do in terms of meeting public officials and deciding where we go forward with this still urgent crisis situation that we have in Louisiana and in Mississippi. We've got a lot of different challenges, and time is running, so we have to keep moving quickly. I want to address one thing, which is an issue in New Orleans. We are now, in the process of conducting not only, essentially completing the evacuations from the Superdome and the Convention Center, although I want to point out more people keep presenting themselves, so it's not going to be a process that ends. We're still going to be evacuating, but we're also going, to various locations, to various houses, starting to get people who have been hiding and been sheltering. There are a significant number of people who have indicated they don't want to leave. We give them food and water. Let me say this, that is not a reasonable alternative. We are not going to be able to have people sitting in houses in the city of New Orleans for weeks and months while we dewater and clean this city with the hope that we're going to continue to supply them with food and water. This is not going to be, the flooded places when they're dewatered are not going to be sanitary, they're not going to be healthy, there's not going to be a way for people to get food and water. So we're going to be addressing this and other issues. We're also examining the mission requirements in terms of the military forces that are deployed in support to make sure that we're moving forward on all fronts.
So, Mayor, what's your impression of the relief effort so far? Has the cavalry actually arrived here?
Well, I don't know if the cavalry has arrived, but there's definitely progress being made.
Mr. Mayor, what's the message to the people of the city right now that are in Baton Rouge and all over the place waiting to hear what's happening with their city?
The message to the people really around the country as it relates to New Orleans is that I think we're starting to turn the corner. The primary missions that I had, first of all, was search and rescue. We're doing an excellent job with that. We continue to find people every hour, every minute, as a matter of fact. The second part of my three-part focus was evacuations. We've already completed the evacuations for the most part. In the Superdome, we're still getting a few stragglers, but we evacuated probably about 30,000 to 35,000 people at the end of the day from the Superdome. The next phase of the evacuation is the Convention Center. That started in earnest this morning pretty good. Instead of staging one bus at a time at the Superdome, we are staging 20 to 25 buses simultaneously, and those people are being transported. The third phase of my evacuation, not evacuation, but of the focus plan is the drainage issue. And I'm happy to report that we are making some significant progress at the 17th Street Canal. I just flew over it not too long ago, and our Sewage and Water Board has figured out a way to dry one of our critical power plants at the Carrollton Avenue plant. They're working on the sixth district power plant. And we should start to see pumping started in the system in the city within the next couple of days. And more importantly, we should start to run not good drinking water, but potable drinking water in the next 24 hours.
Mayor Nagin, are you satisfied with the federal response so far? It took some pretty extraordinary language on your part to get their attention the other day.
Yeah, I'm a little concerned about that. You see any CIA agents around here? Tell them to go the other way, man. But I'm pretty satisfied, but the challenges are different now. Now that we have resources flowing, it's becoming a management issue as far as understanding what resources are here and how to best utilize them. We had a group of people that were sitting around for a couple of hours kind of waiting for direction, and we had to sit down and evaluate what their capabilities were and then give them a specific message. So we're looking around now to see what resources are here and to make sure that we fully utilize them.
We're here in Baton Rouge, Louisiana Public Broadcasting. We've been broadcasting out of here for a few days now after moving over from LSU. Also in town at the Office of Emergency Preparedness, a lot going on there as well. Stephanie Riegel's been out there for most of the week and joins us live with an update. Steph?
Well, Lee, we were just talking to Congressman Bill Jefferson about some of the interesting aspects about the future of New Orleans. You know, we've been focused so much, and rightfully so, on getting everybody out of there, and there have been mandates from the federal officials running this operation that they want New Orleans completely cleared out so that they can begin the draining, the recovery, and the cleanup. And all the efforts right now are focused on clearing the city. But as Congressman Jefferson pointed out, there are so many people still there, and there are parts of the city that are, if not comfortable and livable and safe, at least dry. And he was talking about what he perceives as the real danger of emptying out the city of all its citizens, because he says if we turn off the lights in New Orleans, they may never come back on. Let's listen to the congressman's comments.
Acceptable to have anyone there.
Yes, it's unreasonable to take. I went uptown yesterday on the high parts of town, Magazine, people riding bicycles, you know. And so in Magazine and the old part of town where everybody knew you had to build high because there was, and as time went on, people built, you know, where they could. But if you go up in that part of town, it's dry, and people aren't going to leave, and they have no real reason to leave. The military folks are securing the place, so there's no real. The water, the mayor told me yesterday, is going to be turned on in a little bit, so people can have water in their residences. And well, he thought it would happen. I don't want to speak for him, but yesterday he was very optimistic it would happen in the next day or so.
And yet realistically...
But the electricity now is a whole different story.
I mean, realistically, how long before there can be any semblance of basic services, electricity, you know, I mean, things
that'll be weeks. Electricity, everybody's estimating 6 weeks or something like that, a month to 6 weeks for electricity, for everybody.
At least.
It'll probably come on a little bit at a time, in some parts of the city, not in others. But uptown there, where you have some wind damage and not the flooding, I suspect they can restore electricity there far sooner. And with the water and electricity, there's no reason people can't try. Look, the city has to be brought back to life. Let me tell you, I would hate to see a city just darkened and a ghost town. It would be terrible. We've got to try to get people back in the city. We've got folks back on the job, get the port going. We cannot stand still while somebody, you know, anybody tells us that the city ought to just go dark. We can't do that. We've got to try to bring our city back to life, and that's the challenge right now. And I don't think we meet that challenge by having everybody kind of leave who doesn't need to leave right now.
So you see a situation where like people will be coming back in pockets and maybe gradually reclaiming the city in places where it can be.
Yeah. About 25% or so of the city right now is kind of living without being affected by flooding, something like that. And we've got the biggest threat right now is that we can't get our economy going anymore. We've got, so the port has to get going, the French Quarter, we got to be able to have some flights into the city, and people have to have a hotel they can stay in. We are not going to shut down the city. That would be terrible for some long period of time while you get everybody out and then somehow bring them all back in. Doesn't make any sense.
Do you have the FEMA people or the National Guard people on board with that? Is there agreement or is this just Congressman Jefferson's belief?
Well, that's my belief. That's the mayor's belief. That's all of us who live and who represent the city, I believe. We'll have to impress upon them. That's our belief. I don't know who's saying this. I don't know whether, I heard somebody say that the man was saying, he may not have said that. I don't know. I don't know where the word came from. Someone here said that a minute ago.
He said everybody's got to leave.
No.
So you say that's not realistic?
That's not realistic.
And not good?
And it's certainly not good. We have got to find ourselves. We've got to be caught restoring our city, not emptying it out anymore. We've sent a lot of people away. We hope they come back. We hope they stay connected enough with the city that we can kind of get them back in a job, get them back in a house. But if you do that, we're kind of giving up on, I think we're making the wrong move if we do that.
And when you just try to consider the sheer magnitude of this, you look at all the logistical difficulties they've had and how poorly planned the efforts were to get everybody out safely, to get everybody out after this was over. And then you think about how you get people back in to rebuild an economy that's basically non-existent. And you factor in the fact that basically the most productive part of your workforce, your middle-class families, to the extent that there were in New Orleans, have basically dropped anchor in those places to which they evacuated and gotten their kids registered for school there. You say, how do those people come back and start working again in a city that doesn't have the infrastructure? Of course, I've been holed up here, so I don't have a good sense for how much thought is being given at this point, if any, to the rebuilding effort, to getting just the economy at the very least, the basic things like the port jump-started. Maybe you all have been spending some time in the studio talking to people about that. Right here, of course, the focus is still on getting the water drained and getting the people out. But you just see the tremendous challenge. And, personally, the congressman, I think, makes a good point that if you turn off the lights, I don't know how you get them back on, because once the port, business is gone, it's going to be very, very difficult. but where, where do people stay? Of course, tomorrow, Jefferson Parish residents are going to be allowed back in, at least for a short time, to begin to clean up and rebuild. And you see other parts of the metropolitan area that were not so badly affected that are rebuilding already and getting back in business. So you see parts around the metro region that are certainly going to come back, and some sooner than later. But how you get the core of the city going again is going to be a tremendous challenge, and one that apparently there are differing differences of opinions at the federal level about how you make that happen. Lee?
Well, Stephanie, there seems to be such a large contradiction of advice depending on which public official you talk to. Do you think that they're going to come together at some point and say this is going to be the plan, or are they going to keep talking to the media independently of each other, basically throwing out different opinions?
That's such a good question, and you heard me ask the congressman whether he thought the FEMA folks and the Army folks were on board with his assessment, and he said the mayor was on board with it. Of course, the president said, boldly the other day that we will rebuild New Orleans, but what does that mean practically speaking? I don't think anybody knows yet. And there's been a tremendous effort here, but there hasn't been a tremendous amount of coordination and communication. And when the book is all written, I'm sure that will be one of the one of the big faults, one of the problems that will be pointed out. Whether they will come together on some sort of plan to rebuild, I'm sure at some point they will, but that's not the kind of thing that I see happening as quickly as the congressman, for instance, says that it needs to.
Stephanie, whose decision is it ultimately to decide, when people can come back in and if they're allowed back in?
Well, it's interesting. We're not under martial law. The federal government made it very clear the other day that they don't want that power. So, I think to the extent that state and local officials let people back in, I guess they can go back in. We were asking, he was talking about how many people, Bill Jefferson that is, was talking about how many people are still left in the city. Those that are staying by choice, those that I guess have the economic means and had enough provisions in homes that they feel are fortified enough in dry parts of the city that they're staying, and they're riding their bikes around those parts of uptown that are dry. They're not forcing those people out. And so if those people choose to stay and try to rebuild some semblance of something, I suppose, unless the federal government were to come in and declare martial law, they'd have to let them stay.
Stephanie, also another topic. What kind of things are they saying need to happen? For example, to say, people have to start coming back in pockets. What about assessing the levees? Any talk about that? Because we know it's a big problem with the 17th Street Canal, but what about the rest of the situation with the levees?
Well, we were asking the congressman that too. How do you rebuild in a city that is now more vulnerable than ever? Having lost so much of those protected areas of St. Bernard and Plaquemine that were giving us what little protection we had from things like storms. So I don't know that they've thought that far yet. They're still trying to get the water out. I don't know if you heard earlier in that interview, and I don't know if we rolled on that part, the congressman had said what he heard yesterday was 36 days until all the water is gone. But worst case scenario, they had said a couple of days ago, was 80 days. That's Thanksgiving, theoretically, before all parts of the city are dry. Now they're saying they think it'll be a little bit quicker than that, but you're still talking a month, 6 weeks before parts of the city are dry. They've made great progress with the 17th Street Canal, but the water, from what I understand, is still very, very high on those houses, up to their rooftops. So they're still really focused on pumping out the city, getting the pumps even running and drying it out before they can turn their attention to longer-term issues like the overall safety of the levees and how safe this place is at all. And when you look at just sort of the massive bureaucracy that's involved with the federal government, and then you've got layers of state government and local government, and the pace with which they move, I don't mean to be a pessimist, but I just don't see anything happening fast.
Stephanie, the congressman talked about electricity in 4 to 6 weeks. I think he said possibly in Orleans Parish or some parts. Is that realistic?
I don't think so, but I'm not an engineer, and honestly, I haven't been down there. I thought that sounded extremely optimistic. I would have to say it would be more than that, just given what I've heard of the news accounts and of where the focus is. I don't think the power companies have their people down there yet because their safety can't be guaranteed. They don't have any place to live. I don't think they're focused on getting the lights on yet. They're still focused on getting people out, getting the floodwaters out. This thing is moving at a snail's pace. But the congressman's point is well taken, that you have to start thinking long term about where to go from here.
He brought up a lot of good points, Steph, but the realism of having the Port of New Orleans operating as fast as it needs to be, knowing how strong of a port it is, have they already diverted much of their business? I mean, what's the situation with that, if you found out anything on that?
And I don't know. I wish I could tell you more details. I mean, from what I understand, they have diverted some of the traffic. And, you know, the whole region as a port is very significant. And there was always so much tug of war between the various port factions up and down the Louisiana to Baton Rouge, New Orleans to Baton Rouge corridor. You know, you may see finally some cooperation and consolidation that long-term might be better for the state overall, but certainly not necessarily good for New Orleans, and that's just my personal opinion. You know, just because there's not port business in New Orleans doesn't mean that it won't be going to other parts of Louisiana, and we have a very vibrant port system just up the river from New Orleans. But as for the Port of New Orleans itself, where are the people going to work? You know, where are they going to stay? And how are they going to do their jobs given the situation down there?
Stephanie, thank you so much for a live update from the Office of Emergency Preparedness. We'll see you a little bit later. And now we have a report on the exact update and the progress of the 17th Street Canal.
While it is only tidal flow, water is now able to flow out of the 17th Street Canal and into Lake Pontchartrain.
It feels good, but it's just the tidals. It's just the tidal flow, which is helping. But it'll feel better when we can start pumping.
It's a 24-hour-a-day operation as the Department of Transportation and the Army Corps of Engineers work to close the levee breach that spilled water out of the canal, flooding parts of Orleans Parish and Jefferson Parish along the Airline Highway. The water remains high in the adjacent neighborhood, and fires continue to burn. The battle is to fill a hole 30 feet deep.
We hope to place approximately 700 sandbags by tonight within that breach. So it's a large scour hole on that side.
The first thing they had to do here was plug the canal to slow the flow of water coming in, which they did with these large steel pilings. Amongst the pile of debris, what used to be camps along the lake and restaurants at West End, is an island, one man hoping to protect his boat from the machinery. This debris is what will keep the water from flowing out when the levee is filled, and officials hope that will be soon.
We're working hard. We are putting every asset we have into it. We're working round the clock. We are attacking it hard. I'm hoping it's tomorrow.
And they are filling the gap in the levee from 3 areas. Dump trucks empty large chunks of concrete at the north end of the breach, and helicopters drop these 3,000-pound sandbags towards the south end of the levee wall, with the 2 sides hopefully meeting in the middle. The third prong will be the sandbags dropped off this barge from inside the canal. They'll utilize the barge operation at night and when the choppers are refueling, which they do in midair. There are 2 helicopters making the loop here. They pick up the sandbags here, swing around, drop them off in the breach. From pick up to drop off takes about 90 seconds. It's taking a long time, but just filling the hole won't solve the problem. Right now, the pumps at the pumping station near Metairie Road to pump the water out is underwater, and city officials don't know if they'll work when they dry out. So they've brought in these pipes and extra pumps to pump the canal water back to the lake. And while the levee break is on the Orleans side, officials are also watching the flood wall on the Jefferson Parish side of the canal.
With the water up against it this long, we've never had this, so we really don't know.
We're monitoring it closely, okay? With the current and everything, you have to monitor the whole situation because the break has changed the geometry of the channel. So we have to be very concerned with it.
And the break here isn't the only problem for the Corps of Engineers. These float barges will float equipment over to 2 other breaches in the levee system, one at the London Canal and one at Mirabeau.
The Orleans Levee Board has primarily diked off the canal, and as long as the tidal flow is proceeding outward, they are leaving a side of it open. But if the tide changes, they are ready to block that canal to prevent the lake from coming back in.
Officials say it's a fluid situation and that the plans to fill the gap have changed many times.
Because this is Sunday, of course, a lot of memorial services and prayer services focused on Hurricane Katrina and the victims of Hurricane Katrina. We want to go now to a St. Joseph's Church memorial service that's here in Baton Rouge. We'll hear a little bit of the service and then get some video of what happened over there. And Governor Blanco attended this service that happened this morning. Here you see Archbishop Alfred Hughes, that's Archbishop of New Orleans. We've been talking to him. He is sort of relocated here to Baton Rouge. A number of worship services going on this morning.
Across the United States.
Right.
And these churchgoers are going there also to pray, but also to open their hearts and wallets, you know. Wallets, I mean, it's money. In the nation's capital, Archdiocese of Washington is holding special collections for disaster relief. Obviously, the money being distributed through Catholic aid agencies. But Monsignor Ronald Jameson of St. Matthew's Cathedral in Washington started today's service by asking parishioners to keep the hurricane victims in their prayers. He says the Catholics have a responsibility to lend financial support to those who need it. And parishioner Sabrina Gallega said that she's glad the church's collections are being channeled to the Gulf region, and she says the parish's job is certainly to help those people in need.
And you can imagine that at that St. Joseph's Church service, there are a number of hurricane victims themselves who have been evacuated and who have left New Orleans and are now stuck here in Baton Rouge, and this offers certainly some comfort to them to be able to worship and to just be together during this time. We also heard from St. Tammany Parish President Kevin Davis earlier today talking, and there's Senator Mary Landrieu, we should point out, at this service, along with, we saw Governor Blanco just a short while ago hugging a parishioner outside of the church, either before or after the service. But we should mention that St. Tammany Parish President Kevin Davis told us a short time ago that they had a worship service there this morning with emergency personnel, sort of the first time that those emergency personnel have been able to take a break, I'm sure, and tears and hugs, right, and just an emotional time for them.
And we're at KPWB, the public broadcasting station here in Baton Rouge, and this morning out in the lobby, right, a service. My wife and my daughter are in Jackson, Mississippi at a hotel having evacuated. In the lobby, they held a service. I mean, so it's happening everywhere. And it's not only good for your faith, but it's cathartic.
It is.
To get with people and
any faith,
right,
you know, any sort of faith and spiritual beliefs that you have. It's just great to sort of be together during this time, and I think that a lot of people are gaining strength from that, and that's good to see. The
good news is starting to flow in a little bit more.
We like
to hear that.
And
that's the key. I mean, the last 5 days has been all about the chaos that was going on in New Orleans, the problems at the Superdome, which were considerable, everything that was going on at the convention center. But now, those places have been evacuated. People are in shelters that are cleaner. Getting a better look at the 17th Street Canal has been capped. The breach there has been capped, and now the process will begin of actually getting the water out of there. So we keep hearing the phrase "turn the corner" quite a bit over the last couple of days, but I think perhaps 2 days ago saying that would have been a little bit premature. Now it would appear that things have changed a little bit. Certainly New Orleans is nowhere near to returning to normalcy, and it won't be for months, and surrounding parishes the same kind of deal, but at least, and it's not at least, I mean, it's great. Not
right.
At least. I mean, we're seeing real signs of progress, which should make everybody feel good.
Right. But we can't forget that there is obviously still some major concerns in the future for the city of New Orleans and for those who evacuated. Aside from employment and shelter and food and schools for children, doctors are warning of health concerns. And we actually had this doctor on our set just a few days ago. Dr. Ivor Van Heerden, he's of the LSU Hurricane Center. He says that gastrointestinal illness illnesses like dysentery are among the immediate concerns right now. All those people, we saw the video of them walking through that filthy water, infected water, toxic water, as they tried, of course, to find some refuge after the storm. Staph infections among people who had cuts on their arms are a real concern, and also on legs while they waded through that water. And Dr. Van Heerden also expects an increase in West Nile virus over the next couple of weeks. There you see that deep water in the city. Medicine shortages are also a problem. Van Heerden says that he got a frantic call from a doctor right here in Baton Rouge looking for insulin. Van Heerden was able to hook that doctor up, but he says that there's no one phone number that doctors can call to get what they need, and that's important. There's been communication issues all along.
That should be one of the first things.
Right. Many people with long-term illnesses like diabetes and heart disease, obviously they need help. They have been going without medicine. He also warns that down the road, and I think this was interesting, he mentioned this on our set a couple days ago, that we could see stress-related illnesses among the survivors. So many people already so stressed right now, including spousal abuse, alcoholism, and drug use. St. Tammany, in fact, yesterday putting a moratorium on alcohol sales just because of the situation. But so many people sort of taking out their stress and their fears and their aggravations in many ways. And so you can imagine that there's going to need to be a large amount of mental health support being done and provided to these people who have just lost so much. I know that my cousin, she's a doctor, I mentioned this yesterday, she emailed me and said that that she wants to come down, she wants to help. There are so many doctors. She already is planning to come for 2 weeks. She went to a Red Cross meeting on Friday night, is planning to come for 2 weeks. She's not going to come down to Louisiana because, in fact, there are many doctors needed in states that have taken these evacuees in under their wings as they are taken care of and begin to heal from the storm. But she will be going there. But so many people that do want to help, and so hopefully that will continue.
That's fantastic. It's a good point because it's not just here; it's everywhere. All right, so you're watching WWL's continuing coverage of the Hurricane Katrina disaster.
And good afternoon. Welcome to WWL's continuing coverage of the Katrina disaster as we look at a live picture of St. Louis Cathedral on this Sunday afternoon.
But of course, this is airing statewide in conjunction with the LPB, Louisiana Public Broadcasting, and we certainly are so grateful to them for offering up their facilities. Truly it's a fantastic place, first of all, and the staff has been nothing but fantastic. And otherwise, we would not be on the air. And for that reason, we are very grateful to LPB.
Very appreciative to be able to stay on the air.
Right. Well, would be doing our website, which you can also go to, which is on WWLTV.com, as always. So.
And we are expecting to hear from the Office of Emergency Preparedness. We should mention that we'll, of course, go to that live when we do get more information from them. We want to mention that the Treasury Department is saying that they are going to send members of the police force to New Orleans. More officers from Washington, D.C. are now headed to New Orleans to help protect federal buildings in New Orleans. About 30 officers from the U.S. Mint Police are off to New Orleans to provide security for the Federal Reserve Bank there.
They're coming in from everywhere. I mean, ATF, you name it. ATF, I can't even name the list. Marine Corps, 1st Cavalry from the Army. You have people from Canada coming down. FBI, they've been here since the very beginning. Because when I was talking to a special agent in charge, his name is Jim Bernazzani. He's in charge of the state of Louisiana. He was talking about how some of the federal, the criticisms to the federal government for its lack of response time. But he said that maybe some agencies were slow in reacting and perhaps the plan wasn't in place early enough. But he said that the FBI was charged with the task of actually defending national interests and security interests in the city of New Orleans. He wouldn't elaborate for security reasons on what those interests were, but he said they were there since day one, tactical forces protecting those interests. And he said that without giving too much away as to what they were doing, he said that had those interests been breached, the ripple effect could have been felt throughout the country and in part of the world.
Well, we told you a couple of days ago about an oil spill on the Mississippi River near the town of Venice. No immediate plans right now, though, officials are saying, for that oil spill to be cleaned up. It was spotted near the town of Venice on the Mississippi River downstream from New Orleans. The DEQ says that a flyover shows that the spill didn't appear to be growing, which is very good news there. He says the DEQ doesn't know how much oil was spilled since Hurricane Katrina came ashore, where the oil came from, or even when the cleanup will begin. You can imagine they are just overwhelmed. He says that the area is only reachable by boat. Now, the spill was near 2 storage tanks that could only hold 80,000 barrels of oil if full. Officials are trying to contact the owners of the facility with the tanks and notify them of the spill. The owner of whatever turns out to be the source of the leak is responsible for the cleanup. But speaking of the Department of Environmental Quality, so much discussion, especially yesterday, about all the toxic water inside the city of New Orleans, how long it's going to take to get out, and then, of course, the environmental impacts of getting this water out.
How I think they described it yesterday when they talked about it, because that water's going into the lake and then into the river. And this is just going to be a drop in the bucket. They haven't even started to elaborate yet on the impacts on the oyster industry, on the shrimping industry, things along those lines. It is going to be devastating.
And because of all the toxic problems in the water and the waste inside the water in the city of New Orleans, it could take some time. That could also pose a problem in pumping water out, specifically because the pumps will get caught up with all this waste, and so the pumps will stop. They'll have to clean out the pumps, and so it's going to be some time in terms of the cleanup and getting the water out of Orleans Parish, which we all knew, but also the environmental impacts will most likely be quite great.
There is a team for the Operation Help, or Task Force Help, I think is what they called it. There is a member of that team that is from the Department of Environmental Quality that is down here monitoring this situation. But the fact is, the environment in the lake and in the river isn't the #1 priority right now. So that's why a whole lot of attention can't be given to it, because it's, #1, it's human life and trying to save the lives that we can, and then move on from there. And we have to get the water out of the city to begin the cleanup, begin the moving the debris, see what's left. And the fact is, there's going to be a whole lot of garbage, for lack of a better word. It's going to be a mess, and but the DEQ is monitoring the situation, and hopefully, I mean, there might be something that they can do to kind of combat it. You know, the water is going to be very filthy, but with the bacteria and all that kind of thing, maybe there's some kind of retardant or whatever you want to say to try to offset that, put it a little bit downriver and try to clean it. Obviously, oil, they have plans on cleaning that, so maybe there's something in place. I don't know.
Welcome back to our continuing coverage of the disaster that is Hurricane Katrina. Josh McKelvin and Mike Hoss. Let's go back now to that shot that we're just getting in. Breaking news of a Coast Guard helicopter that is down. That is the rescue helicopter, I think, telling other helicopters, judging by his hand motion, to get out of the scene.
Now, these are live pictures now.
Yeah, these are live. You know, the Coast Guard is located on right out there on near the 17th Street Canal, near the lake. There is a levee there. That's where they've been working on the 17th Street Canal Bridge. They've also been ferrying evacuees back to that spot, not by helicopter, but by boat. And so there is a helicopter to the right of that helicopter that is down.
That might be Pontchartrain Boulevard. That looks like the jogging path that goes along it. We can't say for sure at this point, but what's a little disturbing here is you see that the helicopter, I'm hoping that the pilots and the crew of this down chopper are on the rescue chopper that we just saw, because it doesn't seem to be a whole lot of activity around the down chopper, but you can see smoke coming from the fuselage of the aircraft. And I don't know if that is a hazard of trying to approach it, not knowing if there's a fuel spill.
Well, now that we can pull him back, maybe we can get a better idea of where this is. It looks like an industrial section. This might be where they've been rescuing some people near. We're not going towards the lake. That would be, okay, all right.
There's
so
a
we
vantage
are,
point right there.
There's the river. So we are back towards the lake, maybe
Lake
Bywater,
Lakeview.
maybe, yeah, a little west, a little east of that. So we are near the lake. You saw the city skyline and the Mississippi River, and we are east of the city and towards the lake. I would say probably somewhere in New Orleans east, along the lake. That's a bike path that runs along the lake. I guess we see a little bit of smoke, but obviously we didn't see any kind of major explosion.
We don't know what time this happened, how it happened, and for a crash, a helicopter crash, of any aircraft crash, the body of the helicopter is not in all that bad of shape. So hopefully it wasn't from a high altitude, perhaps engine problems. But again, we have no idea. It's only speculation at this point on why this Coast Guard helicopter is laying on its side somewhere in the New Orleans East lakefront area. But there is a rescue helicopter immediately to its left. He was motioning, one of the crew members was motioning toward it. You would think if there were crew members from the down chopper that the rescue chopper would have left a long time ago to get these people to some medical facility to treat any injuries that they may have sustained during this crash. We do what we can.
Well, we are following the story on many fronts and in two different states, here in Louisiana and also Mississippi, who took the brunt of Hurricane Katrina on Monday morning. In Waveland, Mississippi, Meg Ferris joins us now with what's happening there. Meg?
They are coming to you?
I don't think
Josh and Mike, we're here in Bay St. Louis at the edge of Highway 90 and the Bay Bridge, the Bay St. Louis Bridge, which, if we could just show over here, which used to be the Bay St. Louis Bridge, it's nothing but pilings left. The road literally stops and drops deep down into the bay. All night long, all afternoon long, there have been onlookers just streaming in. I would say we've seen easily in the last couple of hours more than 100 people coming out here, taking pictures, sightseeing. You see some National Guard right there taking pictures of each other. Earlier, there were about 25 federal people from all different police agencies and rescue agencies. They all lined up against this pylon right here and took, like, for lack of a better word, a class picture. They all had big guns on them. But what's interesting is people who have been coming here have been telling us they're homeless. They've been, crying that they're not getting enough supplies and that type of thing. We've met doctors and pharmacists who've just volunteered their time and come out here.
Bay St. Louis and that whole area, if you're familiar with the Mississippi Gulf Coast, took a pounding. These are some aerial shots. Look at that boat in the middle of what is just total splinters of what used to be homes. I don't know, I know the area somewhat well, and if we'll back out until we can see the Gulf and see the bay. It looks like we were coming back from the marina. The bridges are gone. It's rare to see a home standing at all, like that one is an island amongst what is nothing else but slabs. There are a lot of vacation homes in this area for many people in New Orleans. They have the little restaurants, all in Old Town Bay St. Louis. St. Stanislaus, which is a school right there on the outskirts of Bay St. Louis. We saw some video, some aerials not too long after the storm, and it sustained damage, but it was still there. But you can't say that for a lot of other places in Bay St. Louis.
Yep.
As we continue to move, the Bay Road is usually about a good 100, 200 feet of beach area that gets you down to the Gulf. That's obviously an airport or what? No, I take it back. I thought it was an airport. Just concrete pilings.
Right.
I think. Could it be an airport? I'm not really sure.
Actually,
I don't think there's an airport around there.
I know there's
if it is. Yeah, I know there's a little strip in Diamond here, but that's certainly not it. But just concrete pilings. That's all you saw that was left of that area. When the storm came in, but yet look at that house. Right there, that was at water's edge. When the storm came in, and the storm surge from this was anywhere from 14 to 18, possibly more. And if you're familiar with the area, the storm surge came in a mile from the beach area. That's a long way, and that's
above anybody's estimation.
Right. Well, you know, when Katrina was coming ashore and right at us, and then it took that little jog. It was a significant jog. I say little. It was a significant jog to the east. And right as it was coming on land, and hurricanes do sometimes make a move when the outer edges of the hurricane cross over land, and the friction that sometimes causes a hurricane to wobble, but it's not always to the east. It's sometimes to the west. But when it took that little jog, that is what saved probably many parts of New Orleans, but cost dearly the Mississippi Gulf Coast. The bridge leading from Bay St. Louis over to Pass Christian looked like we've heard that was out.
This looks like the marina not far from the Southern Yacht Club. Is that correct?
Oh, we're right at West End. Okay.
Right
at West End. Yeah, you can see 17th Street Canal.
Right.
You see the levee work that they're doing in the breach. And you see they've gotten a lot of that debris out of there. That was a big factor. And you see the steel pilings. That's what they're doing. They've driven those steel pilings, those sheet steel basically, to stop the flow of the lake going into that crevice, so that then they can start getting the water out. They'll actually pump it, I believe, around those steel pilings. But, I mean, we have been watching that water.
You can see that it looks like the water is flowing out.
It is, but that's
into the canal itself rather than into the neighborhood.
But that is tidal flow, I'm told, because right now you're going to get a certain amount of gravity flow that will bring the lake down to a certain level, and you're going to get a certain amount of tidal flow. But right now there's nothing that I know about that is actually pumping this water out. The Army Corps of Engineers that we talked to yesterday say, because that's what we saw. I mean, if you stand on the 17th Street Canal, on that bridge at Old Hammond Highway, and look down towards the lake, the water was moving. I mean, a ripple.
Right.
And we were like, man, that's fantastic. And he was like, well, that's basically tidal flow. And so, yes, it's good because it is, taking a certain amount of water out of there, but it's not what they really want to see, and that's the water being pumped out. But certainly, obviously, you got the steel pilings in there. So you can't pump it out now. You got to move. You got to come around.
Right.
They either come around those pilings or leave a hole where you can start pumping the water through. And those are barges that they use. That's a barge right there. They put sandbags on that barge when they're not flying the helicopters. The helicopters don't fly at night, and the helicopters also have to be refueled. They refuel in the air. We saw it yesterday. Amazing thing to watch. Them refueling these helicopters with these massive airplanes up in the sky. But they'll fill that. There's some of the sandbags there. They'll put the sandbags on that barge, and when the helicopters are not flying, they'll float the barge down and drop these 3,000-pound sandbags into the crevice that yesterday was 30 feet deep, and so that's the plan.
They were putting those sandbags in there at a rate of one every 90 seconds.
Right. They had done some 200 in the day, some 700 were in there, and it's just a big hole. Now, again, it appears from this morning's release from the Army Corps of Engineers that they are no longer planning to actually fill the levee, fill the breach. They want to drain that water out of the neighborhood, and to do that, they don't want to fill the breach because then will hamper their ability to drain that water out.
Right.
But if you know the area well, to look at that pile of wood, and it's nothing now as to what it used to be, to look at that pile of wood and think that, well, that's the restaurants that have been there for decades, and even the new restaurants that just went up that have been along West End, such a great place, the Horseshoe, I like to call it. My kids love it, to go out and eat seafood, and you see the effects of the 17th Street Canal and what that levee has done. And still, I know this is Today video.
And the water hasn't gone down an inch.
And I don't know, is that, I can't tell on the other side, is that one of those natural gas, the fires that we've seen? I can't tell.
I think it's a reflection of the sun.
Reflection, that's why I wasn't sure. But is so responsible. If we were to keep traveling, and again, I don't know where this video is going, if we were to keep traveling towards the city along this canal, it will eventually come to a pumping station. That's pumping station number 6, the biggest one the city has, and it'll eventually get to Airline Highway because the water's moved past the pumping station. It'll get to Airline Highway, and that is where the flooding has taken place there, flooding from right there where the canal is, down Airline Highway towards Severn, towards that Save Center right there at Levee. They have since dammed up that area, an earthen dam where they've stopped the water from flowing onto Airline and at the eastern end and also on the western end as well. Lucy Bustamante joins us now. Lucy, I'm afraid I don't know where you were today. Where were you?
We actually went into the city. We went into New Orleans with the Galveston Police Department from Texas, and they were not by themselves. They had plenty of company. The neighboring police departments and the sheriff's office also came in, and they said, you know what? We should have been here with the rest of the help a little bit sooner. But better late than never, and certainly the supplies that they came with today are going to be very helpful to NOPD.
These police officers from Galveston, Texas had their hearts filled with compassion.
I mean, it just has to be done. These guys are out here, they're working their tails off, and, you know, it's a scary feeling.
So they filled their trucks to the top and headed for New Orleans.
I mean, we're kicking ourselves in the rear end. We really wish we could have been down here sooner, and we should have been.
They stopped at the Target parking lot, Katrina, its last customer, and armed themselves. The stories have spread fast.
The looting, you know, some of the shots being fired, the weapons being taken by basically criminals. We got to be prepared when we go in there.
Anybody got any questions? Everybody on safe? All right, let's roll.
And after traveling through the bruised city, they finally got to the police department, who set up under Harrah's Casino. They admit they're not beaten, just feel beaten up.
New Orleans cops that are pretty much on their last leg right now, and things like this keep them going.
Y'all need anything from us, anything, I don't care, man. Be safe, y'all.
Baby wipes and water. Baby wipes.
The Galveston officers line up and pass down just about everything they think the officers could need.
You know what, there's nothing better in the world we can do to help a brother officer out in need. And what we were watching on the news was a disgrace when they weren't getting any food or water down here.
Mostly the Galveston Police Department brought cases and cases of water. And even though this may look like a lot, the New Orleans police officers say that this will be gone by the end of the night.
Keep the faith. I mean, we didn't quit in the storm, we didn't quit after the storm, and we hadn't quit yet. And we don't want people to quit on us. So stay with us and support us, and we're going to come back. We've been through this before.
Just before they leave, they capture the moment with a picture.
All right, well, thank y'all very much. Thank you very much.
A moment that will help New Orleans to slowly get back to its picture-perfect self.
Many grateful NOPD officers today, and that's actually one of the 10 groups that showed up to help them out. So they have been really exposed by the power of the media, as they say, and they say that the kind of work that's being done now, it's looking a lot better. Their situation is looking a lot better, and it's very good news for them because Lord knows they are exhausted.
Well, how was their attitude? I mean, you heard Mayor Nagin just not 5 minutes ago talk about how there's a lot of stress and a lot.
They're very tired. They're very tired. They've seen a lot of their friends, you know, just drop like flies. And as one of the, you know, police officers was telling us, it's not that they left the department. They feel like they left them. They feel like they left their friends. And we can understand the flip side. You know, many people say, well, of course, look at the situation. You know, so many people just missing their families, not knowing where they were. But you have these guys that have held out this long, and just any kind of help that has been, you know, brought to them, they are just, I think the Galveston police officers were expecting a more emotional, more ceremonial hello. And honestly, these guys were just like, oh, thank God. There's more.
Water.
And water, you know, and they're just, you know, they're very, very grateful, but they're just so tired, and you can see it in their faces.
I'm glad to see they're getting help.
Yeah, did they talk about it at all, a sense of what's coming in the next few days for them, or do they have an idea? I mean, are they going to get into
They don't. They really don't. They are so just minute to minute getting information from the top, and even the information from the top, as far as who the top is, it's still, it's very uncertain. You don't know, Stephanie was doing pieces earlier saying that the jurisdiction, who's got jurisdiction over certain things, is still very up in the air as far as who's going to make decisions that will affect the police department and will affect when people go back. And they're saying, you know, they're getting ready for tomorrow. That's one of their biggest concerns. And tomorrow when people start going back, unless it is a life-threatening situation,
don't call 911.
They will not respond.
Right.
They will not respond. And you can understand when you go there and you see the stress that they're under, you can really understand why they will not, you know, handle petty crimes.
Sure. So don't commit any petty crimes.
Exactly.
Thinking about it.
All right, Lucy.
Thank
Thanks
you very much,
Lucy.
Lucy.
Appreciate it. And Mayor Nagin was talking about the effort that was not there as need be. The numbers now, I'm sure he would say a little too little, little too late, but the numbers are 12,000 guardsmen now operating in devastated areas, combing the streets of New Orleans for victims and pulling survivors out and handing out supplies and rescuing people. An additional 4,000 National Guardsmen expected to arrive by Tuesday, and what is now called Task Force Pelican. That's what this effort is now being referred to, Task Force Pelican, Louisiana's response to Category 4 Hurricane Katrina. Also, more than 49,000 people are living in shelters around the state, and another 47,000 have been moved out of state to temporary housing, and that's all over.
I think there's even, okay.
Yeah.
49,000. We have
Well, it's 220,000 in
right.
Texas. I guess this is actual temporary housing.
I got you.
They're not going to shelters. They're going to temporary housing.
Right.
And 620,000 bottles of water, 320,000 meals since the storm hit. And so it's an effort. Certainly not fast enough for the people in New Orleans and Plaquemines and St. Bernard who wanted the immediate response when there were people on rooftops. And the people that needed the most help. Well, certainly it's been a Sunday, which started out for some anyway as a typical day, because that meant starting the day at church.
But it was also the first Sunday that after Hurricane Katrina swept through here, and there's some special services that took place this afternoon in Baton Rouge, and we're going to bring you a story on that brought to you by producer Brent Leday.
Good night.
All we can do right now is pray. The powers that be are doing all they can, I'm sure, but prayer is what we need now.
This is the first time for us to gather for Sunday Mass since Hurricane Katrina. And we gather as a community of Catholic faith. We have lost loved ones, friends, people whom we have a responsibility to serve.
We have to recognize that we're all in God's hands, and we have a lot of people who lost their lives and came to pray for their souls.
We will not abandon our home. God put his foot down here. That's why Louisiana is shaped like a boot. He said, good people who have faith in me, who respect life, who love good food and music. These are the people who belong to New Orleans.
We don't want to lose the faith of people returning to New Orleans.
Those who were safe and not in harm's way want to reach those who were harmed and give them comfort.
And I think that's the joyful moment here.
And I think we absolutely can't lose hope. But it's all going to work out sooner or later.